Now I'd like to welcome our honorable speaker, Ms. Shaninia Shezia from Nigeria. She's going to take a session about women in cyber mentorships, the circle of life. She is bringing that to the front. So, Ms. Shaninia Shezia, please join, and you have 30 minutes. First 20 or 25 minutes for your presentation, and the last 5 to 10 minutes for question answer session. So here you go. Please get yourself introduced and right to the point. Thank you.
All right, fantastic. So basically, I've been tasked to talk about women in cybersecurity. In fact, I was absolutely pleased when I joined in and I saw another lady talking about the SCADA systems. I'm always excited when I see women in tech and cyber doing great exploits. Hello, everyone. My name is Chine Chizie. I work with the National Identity Management Commission in Nigeria. I am the Chief Information Security Officer. I work as a senior executive. I am absolutely passionate about implementing frameworks and best practices in cyber information security. I have been an award recipient this year in the IGFS Secure and Fire Influencers 2021 Security Executives. I'm a cybersecurity influencer in my community, and I'm also a wife and mom to 3 kids. So, hey, we can do it all as women. So, I think about this year, International Information Systems Certification Consortium, the ISC2, did a survey, and they keep doing these surveys year in, year out. But they have shown that there's an improvement, kind of like a positive shift from the workforce and the gender balance we had sometime in 2013, 2014 to currently 2020, 2021. So we've grown from 11% of the global workforce to about 24% of the global workforce today. So it's something for us to celebrate and keep doing our impacts and exploits in the industry. Now, how do we, or what is the major challenge that we have to having this cybersecurity gender gap? One of the key things that I have observed is kind of like an awareness gap. So whether it's at the entry level for the young school leavers or at the mid level where you want to change your career, I'll give myself as an example. I used to work as a systems administrator, and then I moved on into network administration. And I was basically in tech and doing a lot of things in tech. And cyber buzz started at about 2012. It's always been there because we've always been doing security and privacy. And the buzz started, and this opening came up. I actually did not want to go into cyber, to be honest. I felt it was like starting my career over again. And that's where I'm in the awareness gap. I didn't realize that all I had to do was leverage on the actual information that I had to move into the field of cyber and do great exploits there. So one of the key contributing factors to this gender divide in our cyber space is the awareness gap. A lot of people are hesitant to move on to the next thing. Even when the opportunities come, they prefer to stay in their comfort zone where they are. People are not willing to learn new information or new technologies or new solutions. So that awareness gap is key. It doesn't mean that you have to start afresh. It means that you have to leverage on what you already know. It also does not mean that you have to have a technical background, because that's one of the key misconceptions that people have. A lot of people think that, oh, I'm not technical, so I can't go into cyber. A lot of my colleagues in the industries that are doing so much are people who don't even have technical background. All you need is that willingness to actually get into the field, the passion to have continuous improvements and learning, and you will take off from there. Another thing I see as a gap or a contributing factor is the poor industry exposure for on cybersecurity for the young females. So what do I mean? People just leaving school. When we're talking about hackers, when we talk about roles in cybersecurity, a lot of the adverts, the movies, they all depict guys in hooded tops or a guy doing something and pulling up a big screen somewhere and doing some cyber techie coding. But what I found is that there are a lot of female software coders and developers who are absolutely very, very good and who can do so much in the cybersecurity industry. Because what exactly is cybersecurity? It is basically ensuring that you maintain the objectives of information security in any industry. It doesn't matter if it's the financial sector, it doesn't matter if it's the communication sector, it doesn't matter what sector it is. What matters is that you are passionate about protecting the information assets and you're willing to go the extra mile, do additional certifications or extra study to improve upon the information you already know. Okay, so everyone can participate, and I think all stakeholders in the industry need to work on this psyche when we're advertising cybersecurity roles as well. That way, a lot of the younger generation would see cyber as something that they can get into, and we'll have more females in the industry. Another thing I think is a contributing factor is our hiring system. So we have moved on with tech and we're employing artificial intelligence, machine learning, and a lot of these hiring solutions use the same technology. And these guys just use keywords for their search. Oftentimes, and I think I'm guilty here as well, a lot of women don't really put these keywords, especially on LinkedIn. We just basically write where we work and what we do. And then every other thing that you need to sell yourself, the way guys do that is not really happening. So I feel that the use of technology in this case, while it improves the hiring process, it's kind of like contributing to that gender divide. Another option is the female mentors in the different communities. I'll give an example of my own country here in Nigeria. We are like a small section of the population when it comes to cyber. And a lot of us that are key to giving back to society are kind of like overstretched with outfits and outreaches and presentations and seminars, and we find that we're not covering the population. So I feel there are not enough female mentors out there to provide that example that even though I have a young family, I can still contribute and later expand on this role or this opportunity. And again, there's that stereotype that, well, if it's penetration testing, it has to be a guy. If it's hacking, if it's coding, it just has to be a guy. So all these are contributing factors that create this gender divide in the field of cybersecurity. And we hope that we will be able to bridge that gap and smash the stereotypes. One of the things that I often say is that in our recruiting and retention and promotion processes, a lot of females at different points in their career have to juggle family and work balance. That balance is so tricky to juggle. And in juggling it, the stereotypes kind of sit in. So where your colleague, a male counterpart, is easily available to carry on the extra additional roles, you have that issue where you are not able to, but that doesn't mean you cannot do it. It just means that you can't stay as late as he would stay in the office, but you can actually do that work in your own time, in your own space, not necessarily in the office. And that's why I'm thankful for the pandemic, because it's shown everybody that we don't need to physically be in an office space. We can work from wherever we are and give good output. To bridge this gender gap, what I would like to do or encourage is to see women acquire the necessary cyber skills. There's so many free platforms where you can learn the basics. And if you've gone past the basics, there are also platforms to get advanced information when it comes to cyber. The cybersecurity domain is huge. It ranges from awareness to governance, and I'll get back to that later. But really, we need to start acquiring the skills, because having these skills and having this certification prove to whoever needs to hire, if it's a Fortune 500 companies, it proves to them that you have these basic standard or skill sets and can perform on the job. So that's one of the things that we need to do to bridge the gap. Another thing I also recommend is that we have initiatives that support females in cybersecurity. So it could be in the local community, it could be having mentorship programs, it could be even things like having scholarship, because ESET does something similar where they have scholarship targeted for females. So it could be things like that, just having that enabling environment that a woman would have ordinarily ignored, but because this is readily available, it then looks interesting and inviting to get into this field of cybersecurity. And then the last of the things I think we should do is become role models. Okay, individually at any level, whether you're at the entry level, whether you're still in school, whether you're mid management, advanced management, or what I term the stage in cybersecurity. We need to be role models. We need to have good work ethics. We need to set the example to have our male counterparts rely on us to achieve the goal of that department or unit or whatever it is where you function in cyber and in whatever sector. So we need to be role models and spread the word that this can happen. One of the things I always say is that there's so many advantages having women in cyber. Women are multitasking in nature. We are more creative. We can be very diligent and hardworking when it comes to delivering our job functions. So, what is that thing that gives us that added edge? We kind of like contribute or discuss with people across different forces and different, but not just in our office. There's also the home front, there's also the children's front, there's everywhere. You're used to interacting with different people. So you're able to see things from different points of views. And in projects, I find that women have that ability to gather that alternative viewpoint and use that to deliver creative work for cyber. Another advantage is in collaboration and the sustainable process of either organization or a sector. There's this thing or saying that women use both sides of their brain and men use one side of their brain. I'm not a medical expert, but there are a lot of researches and documentations out there that prove that women use or have 30% more neurons firing every time they communicate. This gives us the ability to have strong empathy and even intuition. I'm sure there's so many times when you've had to do something and something inside just tells you no, there's something wrong somewhere. You then go back and revisit the processes to ensure that everything is as it should be in line with whatever framework you're trying to implement. So having women in cyber gives that added edge. It gives that once over, the look over, the collaboration is there. Because of empathy, people are comfortable to work, and then the workplace is a pleasant place. The last is the compliance. I find that when women are in cyber roles and organizations need to comply with different industry certifications and standards, they do have an eye for detail, kind of like being thorough in their operations, in the requirements and fulfillment of those requirements to ensure that best practices are in place, as well as the information assets they are supposed to protect are being done. So, I mentioned earlier about the cyber domains. We have so many cybersecurity domains. We have the framework and standard, and this basically gives an idea of where or in what field women can work in cybersecurity. We have the physical security, which is not about the logical. This has to do with access to the physical infrastructure. Okay, so all the physical requirements and maintenance. We have those who specialize in implementing frameworks and standards. So we're looking at things like the NIST standard, there's the COVID, ISO, and I'm sure in Asia there are different data privacy and protection standards. Basically, we have that as a cybersecurity domain, and I find that women can perform very well in that structure as well. Another is the security architecture in the design of the whole system or solution. Because across board in industries, we have um, different or tailored solutions depending on the needs that we are trying to achieve and protect. And in doing this, one of the key things is having security and privacy by design. So we can have women work as security architects. What they basically do is ensure that the privacy protections are across board implemented in the network design, in the infrastructure design. They look at the identity management, access controls, cryptography, system builds, testing, baseline configuration. All of that is exciting. And if you're interested in that, having the security architect additional training and skill set, it's good for you. Another is in the security operations, and this is where a lot of women I know actually functioning. Things like the vulnerability management, incident response, doing investigations and forensics, breach notifications, having security incident and event management, doing disaster recovery, writing up the plans, testing the plans, doing the business continuity exercises, active defense, and ensuring there's no data leakages. So those are like the day-to-day operations and information security, and security operation domain has that, and women are there working. We have awareness. Again, I mentioned earlier that you don't have to have a tech background. You can also come in as a female in cybersecurity with an understanding of the role that you have to perform, and you then have that passion to pass on that knowledge. And that's where user education comes in. So you can have different awareness things, create PowerPoint presentations, create infographics and things that would help people reinforce cybersecurity best practices. Threat intelligence is also another field, especially now that we have the dark web and dark web monitoring and all of that. The last, oh, we still have governance domain. So in governance, this is the interface between cyber and the legal requirements or regulations. In governance, we also talk about auditing our information systems or infrastructure. We look at who is informed about these risks, who's the supervisory authority when it comes to the policy and procedure implementation, how is the whole maturity model reported. All of that falls under the governance. And then key cybersecurity domain, without which I think a lot of others are plugged into, is the risk assessment. Now, what exactly is risk and what is threat? One of the key things is that the risk is exploitation of the threats. And what are the threats? They're everywhere. And as we know, the field of security is dynamic. It keeps evolving every time. It's not static. So if you deployed a solution or system, say January this year, and we're talking of zero-day exploits, and you are not going to review the controls that you have put in that system, that's obviously leaving it for a breach or a risk attack and things, or a cyber attack. So the risk assessment is basically the process of reviewing your infrastructure and your business processes to ensure that there's no gap or leak, and ensure that the information assets are protected. In this place, you need to ensure you have your asset inventory. We talk about how many times you do your vulnerability scans, your source code scanning, if it's a new application that's coming up. We look at things like penetration testing, how often is it done in line with whatever has been defined as your policy. So these are the cyber domains, and believe me, women function in all areas of these domains, and we need more people. So what basically is key to achieving all of this? And that's what I say about mentorship. Mentorship, we're looking at things like coaching, we're looking at support groups, we're looking at achieving a goal, trainings, motivations, the advice you give, what direction people take. And this mentorship cuts across these four key stages or areas in a female's career. At some point, I too was a mentee to people, and today I'm a mentor to other mentees. So, as a mentee in that stage, how do you ensure that you achieve or you reach the goal that has been set for you or in line with what you've decided your passion is? We also have key
Hello,
players in
testing,
this.
testing. Hello, testing.
Hello. We also have key players in this area when we talk about academic tutors. We talk about people in the industry, lecturing and promoting the information security and cybersecurity skills for them to function. We also have as professionals and mentors in the workplace, whether it's in your community or the workplace. How well do you pass on this support structure to allow people um, function in this field of cybersecurity? And the mentorship doesn't stop there. We have those I refer to as the SAGE, who are the experienced female professionals. In that stage, too, you'll be surprised that there are mentees in that stage as well. The whole idea is that, like I mentioned earlier, the dynamic nature of information security, you need to continuously improve yourself. So, one of the key things I advise people is if you're doing this mentorship, you can have a mentorship circle of about, say, 3 to 7 people. You define what your goal is. If your goal is, I need to certify to this certification in so, so, so time, you define the timeline. 6 months. How often do you meet? Do you meet weekly? Do you meet twice a week? Um, Things like how do you support someone who is not quite there yet, or who is not understanding this new skill that has come up in cyber and who's not able to move on, or what direction is that whole coaching and mentorship going to? So key is have that circle of life across these stages. Ensure that all participants, no one is left out. Everybody understands what the goal is and works towards achieving it. And that way too, the mentees also become mentors because they have an advantage of gaining insights from knowledgeable people that makes them also knowledgeable to pass on that information to the next party. I think I am at the end of my time and presentation. I hope I've been able to communicate well to females in the audience who want to participate in the field of cybersecurity. Thank you all for listening.